A.org. It is usually there Tuesday preceding our meeting or earlier.
There is no vote.
Okay, thank you. We will proceed. All of you should have received the minutes of the January 2023 meeting shortly after that date by our secretary, Ron Evans. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Minutes are approved. At this time, I'll turn it over to our treasurer, Stefan Roots.
All right, February 2022 Treasurer's Report.
23.
Well, I wrote 22 on the report, so there's one error that I will correct.
Paste.
Makes me wonder about January. Did I put 22 on that one?
Yes, as a matter of fact, because I'm looking at it right now.
We will be cutting and pasting moving forward with 2023. I'm going to be brief because, this almost hurts to talk. But our current bank balance as of today, $172,715.48. Our ending bank balance from the January statement, $79,912.63. That was greatly enhanced by a deposit of $110,053.85 from the revenue fees that we receive quarterly. We have a section here of clear checks and just about the same amount of outstanding checks. The outstanding checks are mostly outstanding because many of them are being hand delivered. We delivered one just Tuesday to the Tuesday. Chester Housing Authority, better known as Chester Housing Initiative. Any questions on the report itself?
I'll make a comment. I hand delivered the check for Prospect Park Fire Company on Monday night.
Okay.
So that should be deposited shortly. And I'd also like to turn the floor over to Francis concerning, well, let me comment on some of the other outstanding ones. I'm waiting on a grant agreement from Musicopia Salvation. I've been in contact with their office. They did send an email stating that the grant agreement was attached, but I've been having some issues lately with our DeSigra email where people are saying that they're attaching it, but I'm not seeing the attachment. Like I'm seeing more like graphical attachments, like maybe like things in their signature line, but I'm not actually seeing the attached document. So I don't know if that's just an oversight on their part or maybe something with our system. Some are working, some aren't. It's been inconsistent. So I asked them to resend it to DeSigra, but also to my personal email, just in case we're having a problem with that email. Because the person from Musicopia emailed me this morning, said they got it, because I had followed up with them yesterday, asking for this document to be submitted. And then they contacted me this morning and said they submitted it. And then when I opened it, I saw like 8 attachments, but none of them were the
Grant agreement.
They were all like kind of like picture files of like Twitter logos and Facebook logos.
That's because those are in your signature or their signature.
Yeah, but not the actual file. And that's happened with another, it happened with Chester. They had to send it like twice. So that's in process of being sent.
Besides Chester, what was the other one?
It was
Musicopia.
Okay. That's the one that I was interacting with this morning. Also, Salvation Army, I'm in touch with their office, and they have a lawyer on retainer. They're trying to arrange a presentation, and they're also going to be sending me the grant agreement. But they're kind of going through their hierarchy to determine who's going to submit it. So that I expect that to come through shortly. Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, I'll speak on that and then I'll turn it over to Francis. I had reached out to them as well. They were working on it. it's been about a week since I got any feedback. I emailed them again this morning, but we have a new development and I'm gonna ask Francis
Yes.
to speak on that.
So when we shared with the local folks who are the organizers for Delco Arts Week, you know, the different arts groups, that they were receiving this $5,000, they reached out to the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, which has been their fiscal sponsor for the last few years. And we're told that they had a change in policy, that they are now charging a 17% fee. I think it was a 17%. Was it 12% or 17%?
I think you said
It was not, what did I tell you?
I think you said 12.
Okay, 12% fee for all their income coming in the future. And that is an inordinate amount of money. So they're not going to work with the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance anymore. So you have not sent that check yet.
No,
So what they're looking into right now is, should they use a different fiscal sponsor? And, you know, we're certainly an option. That's not the amount we would charge a nonprofit. And they're also looking to see if the money can come through one of their organizations, whether it's Darlington Arts Center or Community Arts Center, or, you know, one of the other active member agencies, and they're going to get back to us. So I will send a confirmation email that we had this conversation, and I suggest we just hold the 5,000 for now. It's
Okay.
been approved, council approved it. When they figure out who the check needs to be written to, then we'll send that check over.
okay. I think, thank you for that update and that
Yeah.
information, because if we're providing $5,000 for marketing services for Delco Week, and it would only be, you know, based on 12%, I'm guessing 45 or 4,400. Is that right? If I'm thinking of 12% of that.
12% of 5,000 would be about $600, $700.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's significant.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
given that there's not a
It's a small
tremendous amount they
for
do.
marketing, yeah.
We never charge more than, I think the most we charge any of our fiscal sponsored projects or nonprofits is 7% at the most.
Okay.
Because if there's not a lot of activity in the account,
Right, yeah.
why would you charge that much?
Okay. So thank you for letting us know that
Sure.
information.
Of course.
So I'll hold a check. Most likely we'll have to rescind. We'll have to probably have a motion to rescind that grant specifically to that organization at our next meeting.
Oh, and
then-
redo who the check
Then
is,
do a new
yes.
Motion for a new one, and then it may have to go to county council again.
Yeah, so I would void the check.
Okay.
It may not need to go back to county council. John Lichtenstein can tell you, as long, the whole point of it was to fund Delco Arts Week. So,
Well, yeah, we'll work out the details.
Right.
Okay, all right. And I think that's the only comments that I had concerning the treasurer's report, since I knew some stuff because I have some of the checks from Stefan, and then Francis told me about this development before that.
and Prospect Park Fire, everything fine with their check?
Yes, they received that check on Monday night,
Okay, great,
Yeah.
okay.
so they should be depositing that shortly. Okay, I will make a motion to approve the February 2023 treasurer's report.
So moved
Okay,
or seconded.
any questions or comments in addition to the ones that I already made? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Treasurer's report accepted. I will also, we discussed this at the meeting last month. Stefan is having to send a check every month to Course Vector for the monthly maintenance fee. And there's been some lapse or gaps, you know, dealing with mail and other issues. So we discussed it, and I mentioned it at the last meeting of possibly prepaying up to 6 months in advance, so he wouldn't have to write a check every month. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the treasurer to prepay a maximum of 6 months, up to 6 months of website services.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I think part of the reason was also so we wouldn't get in arrears and have the website shut down. Will
Right.
this help with that?
Yeah, there was some,
What what actually happens is 6 months would be great, but we have our meeting in the middle of the month. their billing cycle is the beginning of the month. So if we miss 1 month, we are
Deficient.
maybe
So
45 days behind.
so
but
every month we're approving that payment? Or
no, we had already approved
Yeah.
payments.
So the meeting timing doesn't matter. Right?
Well, right now we just got the invoice for this month. We're approving, in the past, we'd be approving it today unless I forgot to bring it up. And that's really the issue, because if we miss that approval today, if this was this, we'd be going another full month missing the first of this month.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of timing, as long as we're ahead of, when the bill is due, which would be, if we were approving today, we'd be approving for a March 1st future invoice.
And then sometimes he has to wait on my signature on the check.
Yeah.
And then by the time he gets the check in the mail, we may be in arrears and they may shut the website down.
Yeah.
So this is a effort to try to avoid that. And we know that we have a contract with them. We're only doing it at a maximum of 6-month stints. So so we're current for February right now, or?
We are not.
Okay, so we would do February to August or something like that. And just write one check to pay for all those months, and then in September, we would do it for another, possibly up to 6 months, or maybe.
Can I make
shorter
a
period of time.
suggestion, just to make everything easier, that you prepay February to June?
Okay,
And that
Oh.
in May, we authorize you to pay July to December. So that we're always on a 6 months,
The calendar year.
okay.
calendar year.
And that's how we're approving the recontracting them. We cut.
Correct.
Last month, we approved that we rehired them for another
Yeah.
year.
And that's why I provided in this motion up to 6 months, so it doesn't have to be
Good.
exactly 6 months.
Okay.
So I think it still meets what you were suggesting.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
We
So I like her idea, like
February to
June,
June, okay.
and then
In May, we'll go
then in
July.
June, we
to
could do
December.
July to December.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll turn it over to the solicitor if he has anything to report.
The only matter that I have is that we're coming up on the annual filing of our financial disclosure. It must be done by April 30th. I'll send blank forms out to everyone so they can fill them out and file them.
And you can comment that there need to be 2 separate financial disclosures for anyone on the board that is a candidate for office.
That is correct.
All right, any questions for the solicitor? Frank, I thank you for the grant agreement that we approved last month. We've instituted that and implemented that last month, starting with the grants that we started distributing, and we've received those back. I have reached out to Joanne Phillips' office to see if she wants copies of them, and she's looking into that as well, maybe for her audit. But right now, we have them electronically stored for our purposes. And I have to actually print them out because they require a signature by myself and by Ron. So at a future meeting, I'll print those and we can sign them together and then rescan them. Turn it over to old business. I have a motion to authorize the solicitor to place agreement for next generation grant announcement in Daily Times on or around March 1st. I'll make the motion to authorize solicitor to place advertisement for next generation grant announcement in Daily Times on or around March 1st, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
And so we'll have the information up on the website so that The foundation can also put a little piece about it and a link
In the newsletter?
in RE News on March, I think it's this, whatever the first Tuesday in the month is.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And do you have a, I think you gave us an initial draft of the application. Are all the conditions still the same?
I had sent over right before I went away on vacation.
Okay, I don't think we've changed anything substantially. We discussed it.
No.
But I think after discussing it, we were cool with all the conditions of the grant.
Didn't,
I initially had some reservations about the amount, but I'm fine with the amount.
$10,000.
Yeah, $10,000.
so in other words, did we already, I apologize, I don't remember the December meeting at this
Okay.
point. But did we approve, we approved the whole thing, didn't we?
We approved the grant, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think I had some questions in January, but I was fine with it, so we didn't
Okay.
change anything. I do know that we said something. And I don't know if this is in the language, and you might need to revise the language about the receipt of organization's last grant to being eligible for a new grant, the time period between. So for example, let's say Darlington Arts Center got a grant in November of 2023. Would they be eligible for this different grant and receive it
Yes.
in?
If it was specifically for youth services, but I don't think any of the youth service organizations have been. I apologize profusely. I didn't think to bring the Next Generation grant
No,
and
it's
the
fine.
grant application with me. So I just don't, I'd have to go into it's not on the website yet, is it, Stefan?
No, nothing's on the website. No.
I wonder if I have a copy of it.
I mean, I know I guess we haven't awarded a Next Generation grant in a while, so everything should be. Everything should be good.
I think so too. I just wanted to make sure that,
Say it again?
Everything being good between the time
The
period.
time frame, yeah.
We have a deadline of like September 1st of last year that they can't have received it since then.
If they receive something after September 1st of 2022, they're not eligible for the Next Generation grant.
I'm looking at an email from Francis on December 21st. I think the Next Generation grant was 2023. But I can't get access to the downloading, I guess, through cell. Yeah.
but the bottom line is, you all saw that document, you all agree with it, it's been approved. It can go up
Yeah, let's proceed,
online.
yeah.
Okay,
I trust your judgment, review it. If you need to make any changes, just make the changes. Okay,
Okay.
we're good. Thank you. All right, emergency services grant round 2 update. I don't have much update. I'll talk about it.
Did we vote on the Next Generation ad?
Oh, did we vote on it? Oh,
Oh, we did.
because we were still discussing it.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried. The next order of business of old business is emergency services grant round 2 update. I'll provide that in when I talk about that motion shortly. We may,
Do you want to talk about it now, or we'll talk about it within the
yeah, the
motion?
motion, yeah, I'll talk about it with that
Okay.
motion. The other one is during my presentation or quarterly report or my grant request report to county council. They mentioned about looking at grants priorities discussion. I mentioned that we kind of went through that process
Mhm.
November, December, as we were developing our budget, and we came up with these different categories that we're exploring.
Mhm.
We plan to allocate for this year. Then they said, I'm trying to paraphrase it. Given that we were getting $100,000 or $110,000 for this quarter, they said maybe we should review it again.
That we or they?
We. So a county council member may be here in the future to maybe discuss some of that. But I don't think we need to proceed on that right now.
I don't either. I think we have to really focus in on these next generation grants. We're gonna get a lot of proposals. We're gonna have to spend time reviewing them all, making decisions, making sure the grants go out on time. Then I would suggest we take up the next pool.
Right.
The 110, I mean, it's wonderful if we were to keep getting that amount of money every
Correct.
quarter, fabulous. How much the Super Bowl is going to impact,
Correct.
maybe we'll get even more in the next quarter. Then again, maybe things will die down in the last 2 quarters. We just don't know yet.
Right.
You also received a proposal from a local library that is looking for some funding. I'd like to suggest, and I don't know, I think this was sort of part of our discussion, but we didn't get very far with it, is possibly providing some funding for local libraries in consultation with the, after consulting with the director of the library system. And I think there's a lot of needs out there, and but I sort of feel like we need to focus in right now on what we've said we were going to do, because
Right.
our time is limited, and that's my personal feeling. It's taking enough of our time just doing what, for you managing the money, you making sure the documents are all in order, you keeping us all in,
Relatively good.
yeah, and then we're going out and having photo, presenting the checks, and I'd like us to focus on the next generation grants. And if we can do above and beyond what we said we'd do at the end of what we said we were interested in doing at the end of last year, great.
Right.
But I don't know that we need to make that decision.
Yeah,
now.
and I hope I'm communicating it properly. I don't think that they were saying we had to do something.
Right.
I think they may be aware of other needs and they just wanted to bring them to our attention and let us consider them or have
Mhm.
avenues of discussion or communication between us and other
Yes.
members of the community. And I'll talk about one of those things that was mentioned at a meeting towards the end of this meeting as well.
Okay,
Thank you. So we'll continue with what we've discussed as far as our grants priorities, and then we'll see how things shake out. The only thing I have for emergency services grant is I have a motion for emergency services organization in Delaware County via special one-time grant to law enforcement chaplains of Delaware County. This is a 501c3 organization that serves our municipal police officers and other first responders through their variety of services. Approval of this grant with rounds 1 and 2 of our emergency services grant will reach our total allocation of $100,000. So after we did the vote on the grant for Salvation Army, I went back and did all the math of all the grants, and found that we still had $3,058.30. So I reached out to Tim Boyce. In fact, I was at a meeting and I saw him, and I said, look, do you know of any countywide organization that supports our first responders? He says, let me look into it. He got back to me. He says, this is a 501c3 organization. I reached out to them. I spoke to Professor Teresa Agostinelli on February 2nd. She's the president of that organization. In addition to supporting the police, they also support the other first responders, such as fire companies, and they also provide their services for victims of these emergency situations. So my recommendation would be a motion to approve a $3,058.30 grant to law enforcement chaplains of Delaware County, subject to county council approval, based on the recommendation from Tim Boyce, the Director of Emergency Services for the county.
so I'm happy to second it, and what is their presence in each of the municipalities all over the county?
I'm not clear on that. I know that I live in Prospect Park Borough, And they're not at every meeting, but there have been some chaplains regularly at the meetings. And I also know that in some of the other southern, at least one of the other boroughs, I've met someone that is a police chaplain.
And they drive around with the police at night when they're answering calls? What exactly do they do in Delaware County?
From what I understand is they are actively engaged with the police departments and the fire departments. I don't know if they actively drive around, but maybe at meetings, they provide consultation and counseling, and also obviously they provide some type of faith activity such as a prayer. But I don't know all the details. I just know that they are in support. They help the emergency services responders as well as victims.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Have you, Stefan, in your work in Chester with your law enforcement officers, have you encountered
I was hoping you weren't going to ask. I know there are
sorry,
at least a dozen chaplains assigned to Chester. I couldn't tell you what they do on a regular basis. I know a couple of them, they're associated with their churches, and the things that they do are sort of natural outreach that they do, whether they were chaplains or not. So on behalf of what they do for the city, I'm just not sure.
Mhm. Okay.
So it's a really fair question, because it's really a question I've had with regard to chaplains. How many do you have? What's their purpose? And I know it is centered around a county chaplain hierarchy. I'm just not aware of.
Mhm.
$3,000 will be used for? Do they have a budget? I mean, I kind of like he said, I picture them being like pastors in the community and
Right.
then kind of voluntarily doing this on the side. I mean, I don't know.
I will say, the one thing I do know money is spent on is their uniforms. So I don't know if they purchase their own uniforms, whether they're supplied by the municipalities, but someone's purchasing their uniforms, at least in Chester.
They wear a uniform?
Well, yeah, they wear a uniform.
To identify them as a chaplain?
Yes.
When they show up at a fire and.
Right,
kind
they
of
have
go around.
badges, T-shirts, or, yeah, I think there's a couple pieces of their uniform. Now, I know we're talking about this chaplain. I reached out to a guy a couple weeks ago before you mentioned this, who does, what do you call it? The crossing guard,
Oh, yeah.
in Chester. So he will be applying on
Okay.
behalf of, what do you call those crossing guards? It's in the,
Fire, I think they're technically part of the police department.
no,
but
these,
I-
this,
but I-
it's
go
an
ahead.
independent organization that is at school locations to make
Right.
sure the
Safe schools, I've seen, yeah.
safe corridors.
Yeah,
That's
safe
what
corridors,
it's
yeah.
called. Yeah. Jonathan King
Okay.
does a really, really good job of contracting with schools, first with the Chester Charter School for the Arts. And it's gone so this talking thing is difficult. It's gone so well there that the Chester Upland School District has also hired him to provide the
That's great.
same. They work in concert with the existing crossing guard, which there are never enough of. It's really a well put together organization. People were literally, to your point, Ron, can definitely point to where people are getting paid X amount of dollars an hour, to be out there 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, or maybe 1 hour. So that grant application is probably soon to come in. If we don't want to make a motion to spend all our change on the chaplains.
Okay.
But it is a fair question. What do the chaplains do and what do they spend their money on? I think we
Mhm.
should determine that before an award.
All right, so
But I am not in in opposition
Right.
to supporting chaplains at all, because they do
Mhm.
provide comfort and, spiritual uplift for people who find themselves in particularly, tragic situations that are usually a result of an emergency, like a fire or a flood or a murder. Yeah.
All right, so there is no second at this time. You said.
No, I gave it a second, but I said I gave it, I seconded it and then I started the conversation.
All right,
Should we table it?
any, well,
Vote now.
we have to see if there's other questions, then we can vote. If it doesn't pass, then we can do a motion to table it. I believe. Any other,
I think if it's turned down, I guess you can bring it back up.
any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion is not carried.
That's a tie, right?
We need you, Vince.
It's not-
Somebody call Vince, give him the.
No. What I'll do is I'll invite Professor Agostinelli to either submit something, or maybe if she'd like to come to the meeting,
Good idea.
and I'll still have the motion on the,
Mhm.
at the next meeting, and then as a result of communication, we'll see how the motion proceeds.
Mhm.
Is that the head of the county chaplains? Is that the person
me?
you're referencing, the head of the chaplain?
For the county, yes,
Okay.
yeah, for all of them, yeah.
Yep. I
Thank
think, Rocky Brown out of Chester, he had served in that role for a number of years. I just didn't.
And I do apologize. Like I said, I did speak to her,
It's
and I
okay.
wish I would have gotten a more specific either budget or purpose, letting her know that we are looking at this, what they would specifically use the funds for. Whereas with some of the other grants that they've just come out of the sky, like Salvation Army, it was specifically for something.
Yeah, exactly.
So this.
We knew how it was going to be
Right,
used,
right,
yeah.
yep, okay. I think the continued grants priorities discussion related to the first one, unless there's anything new from anyone concerning this one. Okay. New business. The initial discussion of the future emergency services grant. I did submit a updated grant application. Did we approve the grant for April 1st or later this year?
No, that was one of my questions I wanted to ask you is what you envision the timing of this being, because we're going to be focusing in March and April on the youth serving applications.
Okay,
And then is this the next, all the other topics that we talked about, you want to push them off till later in the year and focus on this in terms of timing?
no, we can move this to possibly July.
Okay,
And so the difference between this grant and the other grants, and I do it purposely because of the quantity and also for cash flow purposes.
mhm,
We pull these on a quarterly basis. So we vote on them at the end of the quarter, and then we award them at the end of that quarter. Whereas with the other grants, we're almost voting on those every month. So we would, if we announce this in July, I wouldn't put these on the meeting agenda until October to vote on the applicants.
oh, that's why you have the 2023.
And then they would be approved by county council late October or November.
Okay,
Right?
it's up to you. I don't have a strong feeling.
I originally wanted to do it a little bit earlier, but given that we have the next generation grant and we're not starting that until March, we probably need to move that to the third quarter.
move this to the
Yeah, the
third.
emergency services.
So
grants.
then in the second quarter, what would you, we would be entertaining the other proposals that we've talked about, like the arts or maybe libraries or community development
Sure.
or,
If we have one-time grants, or if we have a special
Okay.
grant category, I would be open to
okay,
those in a preceding quarter or later in whatever works out. The only concern I have about the July timeframe is for if a police department wanted to use it for their national night out, they wouldn't be receiving the funding until November. If a fire company wanted to use it for their fire prevention night, which is typically in October, they wouldn't be receiving the funding until October. But it could be a reimbursement of expenses that they already have within their organization. So I don't think it would be a huge problem. I could even follow up with them and say, we received your grant, which I already do, and let them know that a decision will be made.
so I guess my question is, bottom line, are we unanimous that we want to do another round of emergency services grants in 2023 up to the $50,000?
I thought we were, and I thought we were open to doing 2 rounds, one, splitting them up in the $50,000 rounds. One in either the second quarter, or now it looks like we're pushing into the third quarter. And then if we have the funding, we can push the second one to the fourth quarter, but the funds wouldn't be distributed until first quarter of 2024.
So my suggestion is that we didn't take a vote. And so my question is, do we want to take a vote on this, agree on what the language is going to be, hold on to it until we feel that we've done enough with the youth services grants, or the work is being reduced, and we're ready to put this out there? Because I agree with you. I much prefer for us to be making grants to organizations who are going to do something in the future, where we're enabling something that they're going to do in the future, like a national night out or whatever. And I mean, then all their signage and their publicity can say that DeSigre supported the effort. So I think the first step is we need to agree, are we definitely going to do another round of emergency services up to 50,000 in 2023? Because if we're going to, if we agree on that, then I think we just set this aside until we're ready to issue it, but there's no reason we can't issue it right after or right when the youth services funding is reduced.
Okay.
What
I think
do others think?
Yeah, I understand. I think today maybe I jumped the gun and thought we approved it, but we didn't. I guess we didn't approve it. So I guess the discussion was on the construct of the grant, the different things that I put in the grant application.
I think we were talking about, okay, what are all the different things we can fund? And we talked about all the different things, but we never said, we're definitely going to do this, and this, we're definitely going to do this, and we're definitely going to do this. We just sort of generally talked about these are all the things we're interested in, which is great.
Right.
And we approved the budget, exactly.
Right. And we also approved the next generation grant.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
Okay. So I guess I want to pull back to this. And I guess it's not going to be future emergency services grant until we approve of it, but I guess I just want to get the feedback of the items that I had in the application. As far as the way I spilled it out. I know there was some question about the washer and dryer that
The only two comments I had was on the third line of the first paragraph. I wasn't in love with the idea of giving them expenses extension beyond 2023 is available upon request. I think if we're going to issue grants in the first half of 2022, it should be for things that are being done in 2023. So I would leave that parenthetical clause off. That would be my opinion. And then I did have a question 246A, the 9th bullet about clothes washers and dryers. I mean, you mentioned that volunteers use them. But really, how many volunteers? Isn't this really an item that is for benefiting the paid staff? But I'm open to discussion about it. That was the only item that I had a problem with. But do we have a motion that we're gonna do this? I think we have to decide we're gonna do it before we even agree on the language. Am I wrong? Or no?
Okay, maybe I made an assumption that maybe I made an assumption that part of the priorities were the next generation, the emergency services grant, the arts culture, and I think I made a suggestion to change it to add history to it. So I thought those were the three core things, and then we also had whatever money was left over for either another priority or for one-time grants
Okay.
I thought that was kind of we didn't
Okay.
vote officially on that, but that was kind of our overall discussion when we were talking about the budget.
But just because we put it in the budget, I think we still need to officially, vote on each item.
Oh, I agree, yeah. Yeah, that's what I guess that's what I'm saying. I said, we voted on the budget. We were trying to discuss the priorities. We officially approved one priority, the next generation grant, just because of the timing. And we wanted to get that money out the door immediately.
So bottom, okay, so I hear what you're saying, Paul. So, okay, so do you want to talk about the clothes washers and dryers?
Sure. Let me respond to the where is the thing? The expenses extension beyond 2023 is available beyond request. I'm fine with removing that. The clothes washers and dryers in the municipal facilities and emergency treatment. Oh, well, you're just talking about the clothes washers and dryers. I would be willing to amend that to clothes washers and dryers in municipal facilities for volunteer personnel. I'll give you an example of the borough that I live in. It's all volunteer staff. There's no paid staff.
Really?
Correct. Now, Upper Darby Fire Department, it's, career fire professionals. But when you have a volunteer that is volunteering to perform this service, I want to try and make it as barrier-free as possible for
Sure.
people to decide to volunteer in this role and to prevent them from any harm as a result of their volunteer service. And from the explanation that we got when we had the deputy fire chief come in, is that there is a lot of residue and other chemicals that can get on this clothing, and they have special detergents. It's not like you can go work at a fire and go home and throw yourself into your own clothes washer and use Tide. You have to use it at the station with these industrial clothes washers and
There is another option, though. There are places that will receive those uniforms
as a service.
as a service
And clean,
yeah,
and clean.
and clean them.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What?
There are places where if your
Oh, yes.
gear is contaminated, you could take it. I think it's in Aston, from what I
Okay.
understand.
Alright.
So, I mean, I love the idea that volunteers would have some help in getting their, let's call them uniforms, cleaned, because they can pick up a lot of stuff in these fires, and we would hate to see them being reused over and over and over again, only because they don't have a facility to clean them. The discussion we have to make is those washers and dryers are really expensive too. So I don't even know how much of a impact we have, with our grants, because we just bought some
Okay.
for ourselves, and amazingly expensive. I mean, prohibitively expensive, I'm sure, for most organizations.
And that's where I think, even though we don't have a large amount, I think that this could have some impact on helping. If that's the need that they have, I think we're helping them with that need.
Yeah, we
That's why-
probably are, but are they already in the process of buying them anyway? I mean, that's.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
So what if we were to say priority will, at the end of that sentence, priority will be given to those departments where at least 50% of the staffing is provided by volunteers? Because I don't think we should be paying for the clothing and dryers for a department that is almost all staffed by paid employees. I think
Right, I
our
understand
job
that.
is really to get the community involved, get people volunteering. I think, am I wrong?
I agree. I'm fine with that because my intent was more for the, even though it says municipal facilities, my intent was more for the volunteer fire companies that might be using municipal facilities.
Yep.
So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Cardi given for,
Will be given to those departments where at least 50% of staffing hours are provided by volunteers. So given that we're not going to be issuing this RFP for at least another month or two, perhaps we can redo this so it's what we've just talked about and give a final vote at the next meeting?
I could either do it in March or April. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, then, I think March is fine, and then we can issue it when we're ready to,
Okay, that's fine.
when we have the time.
Yep.
Okay. How does that sound, Ron and
Mhm.
Stefan?
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for reviewing that. And I'm fine with making those small changes. It's fine. All right, so I wanted to invite the Chester Pike Corridor Improvement Project to come to our next meeting. I'm not making a commitment to them. It is a multimodal project that is occurring. And I believe that's one of the things that we wanted to explore, so just wanted to make that comment.
We had a presentation from them before, right?
Say it again?
Didn't we have?
No,
Didn't-
the planning department mentioned that as one of the projects, but
Okay.
this is more specifically for this individual project. Because they have received some funding and the ball is kind of rolling along. So I wanted to invite them to our next meeting, and then we can discuss it, as we continue with our grants priorities discussion. And the last thing I want to mention is that at the last county council meeting, Alicia Coffey of the Empowerment Zone.
You mean Casa Youth Advocates, Alicia Coffey?
Alicia Coffey from the Empowerment Zone, she's a nonprofit.
Oh, Felicia.
Yes. And
There's
she-
an Alicia Coffey.
Oh, okay. Alicia Coffey from the Empowerment Zone. She came to a county council meeting and during public discussion, she inquired about some grants or some ability to write grants or some capability, some of the capability
Right.
topics that we've been talking about for nonprofits. She's from the Collingdale area. And Councilwoman Christine Ruther suggested that she contact us. And I engaged with her and I also forwarded her to Francis, and she wasn't aware of the newsletter. So I think she's now on the newsletter, and get a lot of resources for nonprofits. So it was just I just wanted to make that comment about, we talked about capacity building towards the end of last year. I don't know if it's something that we want to address later this year as maybe doing something.
So thinking about our own bandwidth, I think anybody who is asking for help with running their nonprofit or expanding their nonprofit should be sent to Tyra Burden, who runs the Center for Nonprofit Excellence at the Foundation for Delaware County, because we're doing training for board members now. We're doing a whole partnership with the Association of Fundraising Professionals with, a series of brown bag lunches. And we're aware of other services that are available to nonprofits. So I understand Felicia's going to be at the get to know us event on the 21st, so she'll meet Tyra there. But I think everybody should be being sent to that. I don't think we have the bandwidth to suddenly be providing
Oh, no, no,
training
no,
for
no,
people.
no.
What might be appropriate is for us to pay,
That's what I was gonna
make a
say.
grant to a nonprofit so that their staff can go through training somewhere, but that's very different.
Is there a cost for them to access the services of
no,
the Center for
no.
Nonprofits? Okay. But something that is a little bit more robust, we may have to, they could potentially go to another entity to explore that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we might, I guess, with your conversation with Vince, would that be something that we would consider as a one-time thing or a pool of money for nonprofits to apply for, like this, maybe a capacity building grant fund?
We
For
could,
external,
we could, but then we'd have to decide what our criteria is, because if there's no specific criteria, you're gonna get a lot of applications.
oh, okay, all right, okay, all right. But the initial place they should go is the Center for Nonprofits.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And we
Tyra's
don't-
fabulous.
Right, and we don't know what the demand for that is across the county, so I don't know if we could.
Well,
Right.
there's no reason why if her services fit within, so the youth serving organizations, there's no reason why one of the
She
youth
could-
serving organizations couldn't come to us and say, we want to put our executive director through the Nelly program, which
Right.
at Bryn Mawr, it's $8,000. Will you give us a grant for $8,000? And we may say, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, why?
But
reinvent
But
the
it's
wheel?
because it's the next generation grants.
Correct.
It's not just, it's not so much that it's because it's for capacity building, it's for the topic that we.
They fit that
talked about.
niche.
Right.
Right, okay, cool.
Uh, I think I understand. You said Felicia is her first name?
Yeah.
Coffee?
Yeah.
What she was asking through your discussion, but let me just make sure I got it right.
All right,
She runs a nonprofit
correct.
and she needs grant writing assistance.
She inquired about grants and then the conversation kind of turned around to,
She's trying to identify grants or she's trying to apply for
yeah, I
grants?
think the conversation turned around identifying and applying. for
Okay.
grants. And then it was referred to us about making a presentation. I was like, well, we're not a ongoing standing nonprofit that's operates 8 hours a day.
Right.
And that's why I connected her with Francis, because she wasn't even aware of the newsletter.
Right. Our
Because they're
emails,
a
yeah.
very small grassroots organization. They're talking about buying a building and implementing numerous programs and things like that. But to do that, you have to have the funding to do that. And so the capacity building was just part of that discussion.
Okay, I mean, now that I hear that. You said Collingdale?
Yeah.
I mean, the Widener Small Business Development Center might be a place for her. Chester Micro Enterprise. could be a
Score.
place. Score, yeah, okay, I get it.
But not DeSigra.
Not to say.
Right, We're not taking time off and hosting her or going to their office to talk about grant writing. We don't have, I don't know if I have the capacity.
Well, you know what, Paul? We'll talk with her on the 21st when we
Right,
see
and
her
we'll
at the
see
Boys and
what
Girls Club.
more needs that she needs, yeah. All right, at this time, very robust meeting so far. We did get started a little late. At this time, we'll have an opportunity for public comment. We have any public. All right, at this time, we'll have an opportunity for authority comments. Anyone on the authority?
It's good to be back.
All right, welcome back.
I'll just say real briefly, it's always a joy to present a check.
Yes,
Not so much to kind of brag on ourselves, but just to get to know these organizations and the people that run them. I know the guys at Chester Housing Authority, but still learned something new yesterday, even after all the time that we've spent together. And although the grant was small, the lady who runs that program that has arts and crafts type activities on Friday afternoons, really appreciate it. She gave me a phone call to thank you, Paul, as well, the following day. So it just really feels good to be able to do these little things that
Mhm.
mean a lot to to these organizations.
So speaking of, we did make a very generous grant to Share, the Share Food Program, to open their Delaware County food bank, I think in Ridley. And I think they're tentatively scheduled to have a press conference sort of announcing it or opening it or groundbreaking on Thursday, April 20th in the morning. So you all might, I'm sure we're all going to get invited, so you might want to put that on your calendars.
Thank you. And I got email from Lansdowne Theater, and they're
Good.
proceeding, and they're also thankful, and they're looking to invite us to something in the future as well.
Good, great.
See those, man. Huh?
At this time, I'll take a motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? All
Second.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, meeting adjourned. Thank you.